Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to Few Orleans. And we have quite a task on our hands, sorting out this other side of the riverfront today. I'm not sure we'll do it all, but we'll definitely start with the town centre at least, and adding in some key points of interest like high school, for example, that we're going to be putting over here. But we're going to start off with the tram system. So you may remember we plopped in this big tram depot last time, and we've not connected it up to anywhere. And the way I'm thinking we'll have the trams configured around Cane Parish is I'm thinking we're going to have two lines essentially. So they're all going to connect at the station up here, which will be the key transport hub, I suppose, for this area. But I do obviously want to give access to the bus station. We're coming in over here. We'll have some more intercity buses coming into here too. So I'm thinking we're going to have one line that flows from this station up through this part of the town up to the high school, which we're going to put out in this forested area over here. And then we're going to have another one which essentially loops round the entire centre. So we're going to actually extend this road onto this island and out to this collector. We'll have the tram come up here, maybe cross on a dedicated tram road onto this one rather than diverting around the roundabout here, and coming up this side. And we'll have that going in both directions. So this should hopefully give pretty good access to all areas of Cane Parish. So let's actually start by sorting this road connection out. Now we do have a few little decorative barns over on this little island here. However, these three we cannot move. This one we can, so I'm going to relocate that because I think unfortunately next to our fairly built up town we don't really want a little barn island. So let's move this for a second, and I'm going to plop this in, let's say over here somewhere for now. Have we got like a suitable position for it, being a water mill, old mill house? Does it even have a mill on it? Doesn't appear to. And this is quite slopey land as well, so it's not going to sit in particularly nicely. I think let's have it here. Is that going to flatten the land? Yeah, it does a bit. That's all right. It's sort of nestled in. We might move that around later. But unfortunately, all of these guys are going to have to disappear along with our very rural little bridge here too. It just doesn't really fit the vibe of what we're going for, unfortunately. So let's grab our road, and we're just going to bring this across in a very simple bridge across here, straight onto this island. I think we'll come out like that. We're going to go straight across the island and then bridge over onto this side, which is just going to flow nicely through a little bit of low density housing, I think, here. We may actually turn it into a bit of a parkland. I'm yet to be decided. And then let's turn contour lines on, importantly, and we'll just have this one flowing through this neighbourhood. So it's come out straight a little bit further. We'll have a nice bend here, and then we'll join it up to the connector over this side. So that should be all of our roads in. So we just need to now go through and lay out our tram tracks. So obviously starting from the station, this one's going to be quite important coming up here. And actually, before we start doing that, let's put in the high school because I'd like the trams to sort of turn around outside of the high school over here. Now I think this land is still pretty flat. It's difficult to tell with all of the trees out here. So we're just going to go for it and see what it looks like. Well, let's have an entrance in something along these lines. So we'll flow it along there. We'll grab our high school and we'll place it in against this street like that. Now it does already have parking built in, but we might add a little bit of additional parking around it a little bit later on. But let's definitely add in our big sports stadium here. We haven't used this yet in Few Orleans. And I think this will be a nice kind of framing when you're coming into the town. In fact, you can't see it because there's so many trees there, so we may clear out some of these trees so you get a bit of a nicer viewpoint here. But I think that will be a good position for it. And then from this side of the high school, let's actually just continue this on a little bit further because we may put in some more sports fields and the such like round the back. And then we can just produce a kind of straight connection here. And this road, I think, will flow on down that direction for more suburbia or outer lying town at least. So that will give us our connections there. So let's come back and start upgrading our roads to facilitate the trams. Okay, so with much faffing about, I think we've got it so that the trams will actually turn around on different lines here. So let's start by starting firstly our high school route out here. Going to come down here just so that the trams can get round bends. And it's really nice that that's realistic, like it won't let trams turn super sharp 90-degree angles. Like, I appreciate that. But sometimes it's difficult to see when you put your line in whether things are actually going to work or not. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting mechanic. But here we go. We're just going to go straight up to the high school and then we're going to come back via this route here. Come down the other side of the road, we'll come into there, and then yeah, we can complete the line just with a simple loop around here. So that's one of our tram lines in, and let's go ahead and give it a name. So we're going to call this Cane Parish High School line, and let's change the colour of it. Let's go for like a turquoise colour, that's absolutely fine. And we'll come back and see usage and things like that in just a second. So now we want to add in our next line. And we're going to come from, we are going to be able to bend around. So we're going to come actually from this stop here. And we're going to go straight down here. And this one is going to cross onto this island, round this little suburb that's going to be out here. Come out onto this road and we can see that is going round the bend. So that's not a problem there. We'll come out to this stop over here if we can find it. There it is. And you see you can switch sides of the road as well, which is kind of like super confusing. So very important to kind of go slow on these and make sure you're actually hitting your stops, not just adding waypoints. But it is a nice, much more detailed mechanic than we got at least in the first game. So there we go, we'll complete that one. Okay, so interestingly, that one's coming up here now, so we probably want to go back into there, don't we? Yes. So let's delete that line, start again, and we'll start from these stops here. I think these are going to be pretty redundant. Okay, so there we go. We've got four lines in after much fiddling. We've got the two circular dark blue ones which run anti-clockwise and clockwise around here. We've got our waterfront line which I've decided to add in, actually running along the waterfront here and out into the centre around this way, just to kind of forwards and backwards line there. And also our forwards and backwards line cutting across the centre from Cane Parish over here up to the high school of the yet to be named side of the waterfront over this way. So that's actually pretty good connectivity, I think, across this town. We will add in some local bus routes to serve some of the outer-lying suburbia, in particular the industry and things like that as well. We may extend even the tram lines if we can at some point. But for now, that will do. So now that is done, the trams are sorted. I have just actually gone through and changed the number of trams on each route because we only have a maximum of 15, annoyingly, from our tram depot. So we've got 15 running across our 4 lines here, which will hopefully be enough, but we'll keep an eye on it. I kind of find that the trams aren't super full anyway. I mean, there's no one on these. Interestingly, this one is multicoloured. I haven't seen that one before. It's kind of cool, actually. I quite like that. So we'll see how the trams do and we'll monitor their usage a little bit later on, but now that will be okay. So let's have a little look at zoning in here, and I would like to get in, not mass zoned, maybe a little bit of high density office into here, which yeah, could prove good or bad, we shall see. So I'm just going to put in this little path here just to block off some of the zoning. And I'm going to go for quite a smallish zone. I don't want anything too massive. You see already, that's pretty freaking huge. But we'll go for that in here. And I think we're going to team that up with a little bit of mixed use. That's fine if it doesn't go all the way to the back. Followed by a little bit of high density housing too, which I think will give us a nice framing on the waterfront there. Now I definitely want some mixed use in here because that's going to really fill this corner up nicely, hopefully. Yes, it is, apart from that tiny little odd bit there, but that's okay. I think we'll have a little bit of mixed use up this side too, just to frame this street off quite nicely here. And I'd like to also introduce a bit more low rent housing. I don't really have too much of it around the city, so we want to be a little bit careful about the zones that we put in, but hopefully having a few of them in various different places will be okay. And I think we'll go for a little bit of high density commercial in the middle here too, so maybe just one big block of it, followed by a bit more mixed use in this side. Can we get that to go a little bit larger like the other one? There we go. And that's not filling up the corner, slightly annoyingly, but it'll be okay. I'm not sure if this zone is going to sit in nicely, so I have to see what it looks like once it actually zones in. And then I am thinking outside of our hotel up here, some high density commercial as well would be quite a good thing to have. So let's go ahead and zone that in. We'll have a mixed use on this corner so that it sits nicely there. Can we get some different zoning sizes in here? That's a little bit better, a little bit smoother. Let's delete out that path now that we've got our zones in, and yes, they're still sitting there. It's going to be some awkward space to fill in around these things, but hopefully we'll manage it. I do also want to introduce a few little parks and open kind of green spaces, and actually, yeah, our small plaza sits in very nicely onto that corner, so I don't think we can deny that. I'm thinking maybe if we have a very large high density, in fact we've got two coming in there, so they won't be as big. You can start to see the sort of heights that we're going to be getting in here from the cranes. And yeah, that office really is very tall, so I'm slightly nervous about that. But I do want this to be pretty built up and pretty like an actual main downtown. We're going to extend suburbia pretty far out with all of our industry and things like that out around this town, so it will end up feeling pretty big indeed. So let's wait for some of those to come in. We have a lot of demand for medium density housing as well, so I would quite like to incorporate some of that into here too, although I don't know what the noise is going to be like. So we could do a big block of our medium density housing in here. That'll be a nice big block in there. Again, it will help to vary up some of the heights as well as we go round by doing this. And we've got some really odd fraction zoning in that place, so we may need to come back and assess that. But one thing I would like to do is unlock some more parking. Now we've only got 8. Yeah, we've only got 8 points, which is kind of annoying, and we're quite a long way off the next progression system. So I don't know why I bought intersections, because I'm not going to use them. That was a mistake that I made by accidentally clicking on it. So we need another 4 points to get these automated ones, but we could use some underground parking in here. Oh my goodness, they are very tall. Let's just have a little look. I mean, kind of actually from this side, it doesn't look too out of place, does it? We've got the odd 1 or 2 towers over here, so I think having a few more of them in here wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, the high density commercials are looking quite nice. Shop late, almost meet. Love it. Love this little corner here. That's worked out really nicely with the mixed use in there. And the low density housing building actually is quite nice. It's quite a nice little variation in heights there. I'm worried that the Grand Hotel is going to feel a little bit cramped. It does have nice views over the river, and we'll have nice views over the rest of Few Orleans from this side. But we may move that later on. We may give it a little bit more space. Maybe its own road coming into it, its own kind of driveway with some parking might be quite nice there. But let's take a little look at the underground parking garages that we've got. They are monsters. This one is huge, my goodness. I think it would be worth it to have it round our kind of downtown area here. So let's add that one in. This one is a little bit smaller, so we'll keep this for the moment. It's actually quite a nice building, really, isn't it? Yeah, I quite like that. The other building we have not put in yet, so I don't even think we've unlocked it yet, is City Hall. So that could be another one we introduce. The welfare office might sit into this downtown quite nicely too. This could be something that actually goes a little bit further out, maybe closer to the high school out here. It could be positioned right on our main street actually, as we come into this main downtown here. Oh, you can start to see sort of the layers building up there. Not too opposed to that. These buildings are huge when they're on the corner, but I'm quite enjoying that. I'm not sure the kind of face facing out onto our main street is the nicest face that we want there, so I may I think we will actually. Yeah, let's just remove that, and we're going to kind of do it in 2 little blocks. Yeah, so we'll have one there. Actually, can we get it to face the other road? Really like the main entrance of it on this road, but that is not going to happen, so let's just give up on that. But I think having 2 smaller blocks in here might be quite nice. That might kind of break up some of that monotony at least. Then carrying on down here, I'd like some zoning on this side road. So again, we're just going to use paths. We're not connecting up to the road. That's the key thing. If you suddenly hook them into a road like this, it will break all of your zoning as soon as you release the path. So having them floating, not snapped in, is the way that you're going to want to go for that. And I think again, we're just going to use the medium density in here. Maybe add 1 little high density on this corner. That could work for a little extra pop in height behind there, which will be a nice dynamic actually with the lower commercial out the front with that popping up behind. I think will work nicely there. And of course then we do just want to remember to delete our random little paths. And I think we'll add in a little bit more round the back here too. So let's go for some more low income housing, although our high density demand is rapidly dropping there. And we'll have that over this side. Now I do want to extend out the commercial over here, so I think mixed use is probably going to be the way we go for this. So let's have a large block there, although that's coming as 2 smaller blocks, of course it has. Okay, so perhaps we don't have an asset of that size, that's okay. Do we have something that will fit in here? No. No, we don't. Could we add a park in perhaps over this side as well? I know we've got the plaza there, so maybe it's a little bit overkill to have a park and a plaza in the middle. In fact, the park would probably be nice around the Grand Hotel, wouldn't it? So let's put it over there as a holding for the moment, and then we'll move the Grand Hotel around, I think, in a minute. But we could sort of frame some of this with more mixed use. Let's actually delete those off a second. If we go like that, will we get a nice big one in here? I'm worried that they're maybe coming in a little bit small for what we want, but let's see. We'll end up with this little courtyard in the middle, which could look quite nice there. And then I do think we probably want another small high density office. Yeah, that's not too tall. That's not too tall at all. And we could do a similar thing over this side, maybe a 3x3. Oh yes, that's a nice height. That's a nice height. Okay, so let's then grab our small 1 unit roads, and we're going to frame off, I think, behind this a little bit. So let's come out straight like here. And of course that office has now moved, has it? Yes, it has. Let's try that again. Hopefully that will come into there. Yes, it is now. And then we could add in some open parking lots behind here, perhaps. Something more along those lines. It would mean some really narrow zoning along this street, but I don't think that's too much of a problem. And then we can kind of wrap around the back of here as well. I think we'll bring out a bigger street around the back here, and this could just connect nice and simply into this road this side, and perhaps come round, oh, and down into this junction. That would work. Now with the Grand Hotel, let's just have a little look at relocating it. If we turn off snapping to a road, can we just bring it out just ever so slightly to give it a little bit more breathing room? We can. It doesn't interfere with the bank actually too much, yeah, around our main high street here, because then we could bring out just a simple 1 unit road to provide access to it, and that could then drop back into that junction there. It's a little bit slopey. I need to sort that out. We could do some nice trees or bushes or path decorations in the middle there, which would look nice. So coming back to here, maybe we start to add in a bit more of the medium density housing around the back here. And I'm thinking this park actually could do with being shifted over right into this corner. So let's turn on snapping to roads back on. Yeah, we'll move that down like this. And in fact, let's just delete these out, press pause for a second. Let's make this one slightly bigger. Yeah, because that'll frame the park quite nicely there. We could go into a tiny bit of row housing actually here. Now we have a lot of demand for office still. So I'm thinking, can we add in some really small little high density offices in here? We could add another 3x2, which will frame it. Maybe a tiny bit of high density commercial as well. which we can do quite nicely actually, and then we could go into a bit more mixed use on this corner again, and that concrete extends really nicely there, so that'll give us a nice framing. And then maybe we go for one larger office building this side. I'm a little bit nervous to do that. That is very tall. But it'll be okay. That'll be okay. Now perhaps behind this, because we're gonna have some dead space in here, and this is why I kind of like to not do my full road frame network before I've actually zoned in. We could bring a little back road in there, and perhaps, can we squeeze in a parking lot into here? Just a small one. It will interfere with that commercial unit. We could do this one, and then we've got a slight border for some trees or something like that. Perhaps we actually move this up against this road, just so that looks a little bit better there. And then we might be able to squeeze in some zoning. We can't. We put a path there and then delete it. Will that reset the zoning for us? No. No, it will not. It does look like we have got 2 full blocks in there though, so I'm actually going to delete out this parking lot. Let's just go ahead and, yeah, there we go. And then we could probably get in a couple of small little blocks here. I'm thinking maybe low density commercial, just something like that might be quite good. Let's delete that. So we'll go back in, get our parking lot, and then that'll sit in really nicely. There we go. So we can kind of build the road frame network around our buildings like this, which I do quite enjoy, and I think gives a really nice aesthetic actually in the long run. So let's carry on zoning. We've still got loads of commercial demand and office demand in here too. So let's keep on zoning up a bit more of this along here. Again, we'll integrate a couple of smaller offices, I think, along the way, hoping that they're not going to be too big. Yeah, something like that's absolutely fine. Go back to a nice bit of mixed use on this corner as well. And I don't want to go too big with it. Yeah, just so the height is nice there. And we can frame it off with some more high density commercial, I think, behind it. Okay, so we're starting to get built up here actually. And we've got rain incoming, which is wonderful. But yeah, it's starting to sort of look a bit more like a downtown. I'm quite enjoying some of these street views. It does feel very open this side. I'm wondering if this park actually isn't in the best place for us here. So let's try and move this again. And perhaps we can't squeeze it down by the Grand Hotel. Yeah, let's perhaps go out into this area here. Maybe right opposite the car park could be a nice aesthetic. That will feel quite low and open around that area though, and I want it to feel relatively sort of bulked in here. Like, look, we've got this open little courtyard in the middle. We can bring some pathways into it and things like that to decorate it up, but it would just be wonderful to have a little bit of surface painter in there to create a kind of commercial backyard, or maybe even a tiny bit of parking right in the middle would be a neat aesthetic. And I will come through and turn off the parking on all of these roads as well. Like, we're going to have parking lots in various different places throughout this area, so it shouldn't be needed. Now, it's a shame we've got this gap here, so I'm actually thinking to myself, let's delete out this little bit of road and re-put it in so that it's nice and close to the zones that we've already got in here. So something more like this, which is still all nicely joined up. And then if we get rid of that, it's just a little bit closer there, which I find a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Now, it does all feel like it's all very much in one big space, so I do want to extend some of these higher buildings out this side, and we still need a lot of offices, ironically. So let's bring in another quite large office zoning over here. We've actually got 2 spawning in there. That'll be okay. And perhaps one on the front here. We could change some of this zoning so that it's facing that road and we actually get something in there. In fact, I'm not loving this. Yeah, let's delete that out and let's change this zoning to our mixed use so that we get a really nice corner in here. So we'll change that up, see what comes in there. Yes, that's much better. And then perhaps we'll do the office next to it. Oh, that's a tall one. That's a tall one. Right, let's cut that down a little bit. That's a bit better. I do just want to get some peaks and troughs in the height because I find it more interesting to look at ultimately. And I know all of these buildings are going to grow up and everything's going to change anyway, but at least we can try and get the aesthetic in we want to start off with. And it's kind of nice when they organically grow over time as well. So here, let's just block off this zoning for a second so that we get something along this road here. And that's probably not the ideal place because we could definitely zone more in. I'm wondering, can we squeeze in just a couple of little row houses into here? And maybe this is actually a large low density office in here, heading up this slope, just again to give us a little bit of variation in those heights. We delete that out now. What kind of zonings are we getting in here? Slightly awkward ones. Let's have a little bit of mixed use. That's gonna look awful. I think in fact we'll just keep this corner open and we'll do some trees and things like that. A nice treed out corner I think will be good there. We have got a little bit of high density residential back, so perhaps we try and get a bit more of that in. That is super tall, oh my goodness. Maybe we cut it back just a tiny touch. Although that's kind of similar height actually to the office and I want a little bit more variation in there, so let's go for that. And then we'll do a low income house next to that, which will be nice and tall but not quite as tall as what we're seeing there. That might actually be the tallest zone that we're going to have in this entire area, which will be an interesting aesthetic I think. And let's keep this going over here too, so we'll have another nice tall one in there and then maybe a high density office behind it. Although we're getting 2 in, so perhaps there isn't an office of that zoning size. So let's just trim that back here. Can we get one in? Can we get a 2x3? No, we cannot. Okay, so let's go for more low income housing then instead in that little spot. Although we've got no high density demand, so let's not do that. And instead we'll go for a mixed use. And there's none of those in that size either. So, this is where the trial and error comes in. So how about mixed density or medium density housing? There we go. Yes, we have got that. So we can use that in here. And now we have this little spot to fill out as well. So we do want to obviously do that. I think a big mixed use on this corner wouldn't go amiss here. In fact, we could even do a 6x6. Will that come in nicely? Yes, there we go. A nice big blocky block of that, and then a bit more high density commercial really filling out that space here. These could actually change as well now, so let's delete these out. Oh, we'll redo the zonings before we do that, and let's actually fill it right back up to these back areas here so that we're filling up this entire zoning block. I'm just thinking other things that would be needed because this is now quite a big town is I think I am going to unlock the police headquarters, which is only 2 points because we can also get the fire station as well. We've already got the hospital, so that is all of the sort of high density service buildings unlocked now here too, which I think will be useful because we don't have enough for the large automated parking buildings yet anyway, and we will have enough when we go up to the next milestone. So I think that that will be a good bet for now. I do want to get City Hall in somewhere. So we're going to need to, well, we want to unlock everything ultimately in the long run. Now these large service assets are firstly really nice. They do have a really nice aesthetic to them, but they're huge. And also the police and the fire kind of have gardens already built in around them, which I find a little bit odd. I won't lie. But they are nice buildings. So I'm wondering, could we slot the hospital into here? Which would be a nice kind of layer and crawling up in height towards the downtown. This is all starting to come together now, actually, isn't it? I'm quite enjoying that. The police station as well, if we go back to that, the police headquarters is another large one. Just wondering where we could slot this in on relatively flat land because it really is going to want to be flat for this. It doesn't behave nicely on non-flat land at all. Could we kind of put it on the back of the welfare office? Sort of when you're coming into town, it actually doesn't sit too badly there. This is a little bit wonky, but I think we can ignore that. That doesn't sit too badly. That is a bit of a monstrosity of a building. It's incredibly white. It's incredibly white, but okay, that'll do fine. We got any high density? I would quite like a little bit of low income housing over here next to the welfare office. I feel like makes sense for that area, and in particular backing onto the bus station as well. Because noise pollution doesn't seem to be too bad in this version of the game, although we haven't got high density now, so let's leave that. So you can kind of tend to get away with building some things relatively close to things that you definitely couldn't. So things like the bus station or a train station in the first game. I think we can build up a little bit of commercial alongside the bus station there. Because yeah, I want things really kind of packed in ultimately in this area. I'm just checking what we've got here. I think some more commercial opposite the bus station is probably needed. So let's change it up between mixed use and regular high density commercial, which will give us just a little bit of variation in some of those heights there. Now that zoning is attached to this one. So we're probably just going to have to go for one massive large mixed use on that corner. Or is that a 6x? That is a 6x6, yeah. Yeah, so that's coming in nicely there. And then we can go for some nice large commercial over here too. Okay, so we're starting to get like a really good feel for what this central area is going to look like to our new town. So it's now kind of time to come in and tidy this all up. So we'll do a bit more high density zoning mixed in with medium density and parking lots and parks and things all around this area. We'll tidy up the high school as well and a lot of these trees around here. Get this looking nice and do some nice path work along the riverfront down here just to detail that up. And yeah, just a ton more zoning to finish off the central area of our new town. Okay, so I know you're probably thinking, why on earth is she stopping now, because I am nowhere near done with this area. I started to get to the point where I was ready to kind of come into the street levels and in between buildings and start detailing it with the trees and parks that we have available, and I kind of realised I can't do this anymore, honestly. I am just not set up for how this vanilla game is. I am a street detailer. I like to come down to street level and envisage what it's going to look like and detail every single tiny little area. If you've watched my CS1 series, you will know this, and for me, it's just not satisfying not being able to do anything other than adding in a few trees, honestly. So I've decided to call it. We're going to add mods. So next time we're going to come in, we're going to add mods, and we're going to detail the hell out of this area with every little thing that we can possibly do, all within the vanilla game, because there are no assets. Just with those extra mods, it's going to give us so much more detailing opportunities and flexibilities. So look out for that next time, and this episode is very much to be continued. So for today, that is going to be all from me. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are greatly appreciated, and stay tuned for next time where we are going to shake the hell out of Cities Skylines II. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye!